A few days ago, I put out a post asking my community what really matters when choosing a Linux distro. And your answers honestly blew me away. They were thoughtful, they were practical, and it reminded me that this community is full of people who truly get it. So I sat down, went through every single response, and pulled out the most important patterns. And in this video, I'm going to be using all of that along with my own experience to help you figure out what the best distro for you truly is. We'll be breaking things down by what actually matters, so stuff like hardware compatibility, stability, community support, how easy it is to set up, and a few other key factors. For each one, I'll show you which distros truly stand out. And by the end, maybe we'll even spot the one that shows up in the most categories. If so, that might just be the ultimate distro. But before we jump in, hit the comments and tell me what distro you think deserves the title of the ultimate Linux distro, and tell me why as well. Also, please like and share this video so that it reaches the maximum amount of people. Alright, let's get to it. What distro is best for hardware compatibility? Well, I have 3 top recommendations. I'll start with Fedora, and I think it's the front runner when it comes to hardware support out of the box. It ships with the latest Linux kernel, often just weeks after it's released. That means if you've got a brand new CPU like the Ryzen 7000 or the Intel 13th or 14th generation, or even the latest GPU from AMD or Nvidia, Fedora is going to support it sooner and better than almost any other mainstream Linux distro. But then it doesn't stop there. Fedora also includes FWUPD, which lets you update firmware, BIOS, and even Thunderbolt devices from within the operating system. So you no longer need to boot into Windows just to update your BIOS. And because Fedora is the upstream base for Red Hat Enterprise Linux, it's tested on enterprise class hardware, yet it's still perfectly optimized for laptops and desktops. Plus, its Wayland first approach works well with touchscreens and high DPI displays. So if you're on a modern hardware, that's a win. Now, if Fedora is the fastest to support new gear, Ubuntu is the most broadly compatible. And that's for good reason. You see, major PC vendors like Dell, Lenovo, HP officially certify and ship Ubuntu on their machines. That's a big deal because it means your hardware has already been tested to work. You rarely run into issues on anything that's even moderately recent. Ubuntu also simplifies driver installations, so the additional drivers tool automatically detects proprietary components. We are talking Realtek Wi-Fi or NVIDIA graphics, and it installs them with just one click. Now, there's also one thing to note. Ubuntu sticks with LTS, which is the long-term support kernels by default. These aren't bleeding edge, but they are tested and stable. And they still support a whole spectrum of hardware, both old and new. Now, my last recommendation for this category is Linux Mint. It is built on Ubuntu, so it inherits that great hardware support, but it adds a few smart tweaks that make it especially good for older or low-spec systems. First, it uses Cinnamon Desktop, which is lighter and more responsive than GNOME. So already you get fewer issues with lag, tearing, or sluggishness on older CPUs or integrated graphics. Secondly, Mint avoids snap packages by default. You see, snap can sometimes cause compatibility headaches with certain hardware, especially peripherals. So by skipping snaps altogether, Mint keeps things lean and more predictable. So usually if you're on an older PC or you just want things to run without tweaking, Mint usually will just work. Now I have a few honorable mentions. The first is Pop! OS. Now this one is tailor-made for laptops with hybrid graphics, so we are talking Intel plus Nvidia, and it installs the right drivers automatically. Then there is openSUSE, and I mean the Leap edition. This one is not as beginner focused, but its enterprise grade hardware detection is rock solid. And my last honorable mention is MX Linux. Now, if you're working with very old hardware, MX Linux with its lightweight XFCE desktop and excellent driver tools is still one of the most reliable out there. Now, let's head to the next category. Let's explore the distros that make the entire experience smooth. So we are talking installation, daily task, app management, updates, hardware support, and familiarity. In my experience, these are often the best for first-time users. For this category, the first distro I will recommend is Linux Mint. This is probably the most ideal if you're coming from Windows. It uses the Cinnamon desktop, which gives a traditional taskbar, start menu, and right-click menus. You know, everything behaves like you would expect. Also, Mint comes preloaded with media codecs, so we are talking MP4, MP3, DVDs. They just play without any need for extra setup. It also includes LibreOffice, Firefox, and Timeshift for easy system backups. You see, these are usually the things you need on first boot. Linux Mint also has a software manager for app installation, and it is fast, uncluttered, and shows only verified software. Most things are plug and play, like connecting a printer or an external drive. And also, it has a great update manager. Updates are controlled by a risk level. You get full control over what you install, and you can automate updates safely. Mint is also built on Ubuntu LTS, so you get excellent hardware support and stability without worrying about frequent breaking changes. The next I will recommend in this category is Zorin OS. It gives a familiar interface and modern design. Zorin also includes the Zorin Appearance tool, which lets you switch your desktop layout between Windows 11, Windows 7, Mac OS, or a custom look without touching a config file. Now, I also think the Zorin software app is awesome, and it supports .deb packages, Flatpak, and Snap, so compatibility is broad and flexible. Just like Linux Mint, Zorin is also based on Ubuntu LTS. So here again, you get long-term stability, solid hardware detection, and support for proprietary drivers where needed. And because it's optimized for performance, it runs well even on older hardware, especially the light version. Now, I also have honorable mentions here. The first is Ubuntu. It's the base for both Linux Mint and Zorin OS, and it's still one of the easiest distros to install and maintain. What makes Ubuntu to be user-friendly is that it has a huge user base and endless documentation. So usually when you hit a problem, there's already a tutorial or forum about it. The second honorable mention in this category is Elementary OS. Now, this one is inspired by Mac OS and keeps things intentionally minimal. The App Center is tightly curated, no clutter, just apps that are safe and designed for the OS. It's also beautiful and simple, but customization is limited by design. Now, before we go to the next category, I need you to tell me in the comments what you consider the most before choosing a Linux distro. Stability and security are the backbone of a good Linux experience, especially if you're doing real work, managing servers, or don't just want to troubleshoot every other weekend. And for me, Debian Stable is the gold standard for long-term reliability. It does not chase the latest software. Instead, every package goes through unstable, then testing, then stable, with strict bug and regression checks along the way. This process means you get no surprises, no random breakage, and extremely rare crashes. On Debian Stable, security updates are handled by a dedicated team, and while updates may not be as rapid, they are proven and trusted. If you're running servers or a daily desktop where set it and forget it matters, Debian Stable usually is your distro. Now, of course, this is not everybody's cup of tea. In fact, I would like to know what you care more about, reliability or newest features. Please drop your comments below. Now, another distro I recommend in this category is Red Hat Enterprise Linux. This one should be your go-to if you're running mission official systems. So think banks, hospitals, or enterprise applications. You get up to 10 years of updates, SE Linux built in for mandatory access controls, automated patching and transactional updates with rollback options. And you also get certified security compliance for government and industry. And the best part is that individuals and small businesses can get it for free via the Red Hat developer subscription. As far as stability goes, it's either Debian stable or Red Hat Enterprise Linux. However, I have some honorable mentions that could be good choices as well. The first is Ubuntu LTS. Now, this one is based on Debian, but more user-friendly. It gives you 5 years of security updates plus optional extended support. This one is a top choice for workstations, home servers, or anyone who wants that balance between usability and stability. It also benefits from Canonical's huge infrastructure and certified driver support. openSUSE is also a good call. It shares its base with SUSE Linux Enterprise, so you're getting enterprise-grade packages. The key feature here is Snapper with BTRFS, which gives you system-wide snapshots and one-click rollback if an update messes something up. Then, as an honorable mention, I'll also shout out Linux Mint. It's built on Ubuntu LTS, but adds time shifts, which makes the restore points automatic. So if you're worried about breaking your setup with an update, Mint lets you recover with a single click. Now remember to drop a comment below and tell us what distro you use and why. Let's keep it going. If you're looking for a distro whose community is stable, well-governed, and fiercely independent, then you should pick Debian. Debian's community is technical and fully independent. There's no corporate control. It's run by a constitution, a social contract, and an elected project leader. Major decisions like init system choices or non-free firmware policies are made through democratic votes by developers. You won't get much hand-holding here, but Debian's documentations, forums, and mailing lists go back decades. If a Linux problem has ever happened, someone on Debian has solved it, and the answer is archived somewhere. Also worth noting that Ubuntu, Mint, SteamOS, and dozens more depend on Debian upstream. So when you contribute to or learn from Debian, you're indirectly helping the broader Linux ecosystem. My second recommendation is Ash. Now, Ash's community has a reputation: blunt, technical, and no nonsense. But if you're serious about learning Linux, it's really hard to beat. The Ash Wiki is the most complete community-maintained Linux knowledge base anywhere. Even non-Ash users regularly depend on it for advanced solutions. It covers NVIDIA hybrids, GPU quirks, file system tuning, SE Linux, Wayland configs, custom kernel builds, and advanced networking and system tricks. But then it's not just static documents. There is active engagement across Reddit, Matrix, forums, and IRC. Usually, if you report a bug, someone's likely to follow up. If you post a config issue, expect someone to break it down line by line. Now, for this category, I have two honorable mentions. The first is Gentoo. This one has a tiny user base with elite knowledge. If you need help compiling a custom kernel or patching hardware level bugs, someone in Gentoo has done it and will probably walk you through it. It's not beginner friendly, but you'll learn it on. And then there is openSUSE. This one is one of the most transparent community models. The openSUSE board and the Open Build service invite wide collaboration. You can submit your own packages, test builds, and get feedback from devs. This one is extremely developer friendly. Now, if you want the distros where the community have the greatest say in the direction, you should check out my Who Owns Your Linux Distro videos. I'll be linking them in the description. When it comes to gaming and software compatibility, two distros stand out far above the rest. And they do it in completely different ways. As far as I'm concerned, CachyOS is the current champion of raw gaming performance. Cachy runs on an aggressively optimized kernel with the Bohr scheduler, PDS patches, and multi-generational LRU, all tuned for faster frame rendering and input latency. Its software is compiled with O3 optimizations and CPU-specific instructions, meaning that every package you install is fine-tuned for your actual hardware. When you add in a gaming-focused repository with the latest Mesa, Proton GE, Wine TKG, and a no-nonsense install experience, you realize that it's a system that benchmarks better than anything else in FPS and frame consistency. This one is not for first-timers, but if you've got even a moderate Linux experience and want maximum performance, Cachy delivers, full stop. Now, if you want something powerful but simple, Nobara steps in. Nobara is built by the same developers behind Proton GE. It's Fedora-based but heavily customized for gaming and content creation. From the first boot, you get support for Steam, Wine, OBS with NVENC, controller drivers, codecs, everything you normally spend hours configuring is already out of the box. It even patches the GNOME desktop for smoother gaming performance and preconfigures system-level enhancements so you don't have to think about it. Now, once again, I have honorable mentions for gaming. The first is Chimera OS. This one deserves a shout out for turning your PC into a living room game-ready console. Here you get no desktop, just boot to Steam, perfect for couch gaming and Steam Deck style setups. My second shout out is for Pop OS. This one is still solid, especially for NVIDIA users, thanks to the separate ISO and top-tier graphics switching, even though this one lacks the kernel-level gaming tweaks that some of the top picks have. Now, I'm not sure how many gamers watch this channel, but if you game on Linux, I would love to hear your thoughts and learn what distros are your go-to. If your goal is full control, not just over appearance or software, but over how your system is built, behaves, and evolves, then customization and project philosophy are non-negotiable. And in this category, Gentoo and Arch Linux are objectively in a league of their own. Let's start with Gentoo. It's customizable and also composable from source. With Gentoo, every package is compiled on your system with the exact flags and dependencies you choose. The purchase system gives you fine-grained control over optimizations, optional features, and even ABI compatibility. This simply means you can strip out what you don't need. So I'm talking language bindings, even audio backends. This way, you only build what matters to you. But Gentoo's philosophy is just as strong as its tooling. It's transparent, documented, and not dictated by corporate direction. You build it, you own it, right down to the init system. Systems is not required. It defaults to OpenRC, but you can pick Run It, S6, or even roll your own. This makes Gentoo the only mainstream distro where the architecture is not assumed, it's constructed by the user. Now, Arch Linux takes a different but equally powerful approach. Instead of compiling from source, Arch gives you a bare-bones binary base. This is just enough to boot, and then you can layer everything else. There are no installer choices, no preconfigured desktops, and also no hand-holding. You build your system from the package manager up, with Pacman and the Arch build system letting you create or patch packages as needed. If you want to remove systemd, you can. You can even build your own spin with a tiling window manager, custom shell scripts, and you get zero graphical clutter. Arch basically will not stop you from being creative. It wouldn't get in your way in any way. But I think what's greatest about Arch is the documentation and community governance. I earlier spoke about the Arch Wiki. It's the largest, single, most comprehensive Linux resource available. and it's written, edited, and maintained by users. Ash is guided by the KISS principle. Keep it simple, not minimal. Every design decision is transparent, logical, and user respecting. And while it uses systemed by default, it doesn't enforce it. Alternative spins like Attics exist for that exact reason. And the best part is that the Ash community embraces this diversity. Now, my honorable mentions here are NixOS and Void Linux. I'm giving Nix a shout out for his purely declarative atomic system. You see, every config is version controlled and reproducible. Here, if you want immutable infrastructure level control at the OS level, NixOS is unmatched. Now, why Void? Well, because it's one of the few truly independent distros. It doesn't rely on upstream package bases. It uses run it instead of systemed and offers MUSL builds for ultralight systems. It's minimalistic without being minimal. So if we have to crown one distro as the overall best Linux distro, which will it be? Well, I'm looking at this summary table and I could see Linux Mint pops out quite often. And then we also have Debian and Gentoo. I don't know if I would say these are the ultimate best distros to use, but I know these are very, very good, solid distros you should be interested in. Anyways, I have a lot of Linux experts on this channel, and so I would love you to leave your comments below and tell us what you think the ultimate Linux distro is. But if you're just getting out with Linux and looking for a distro to try, I hope this video would have helped you in picking some of the best choices out there. Remember to like this video. If this is your first time, please subscribe to the channel, and of course share this video with someone who needs to learn where to get started with Linux. And till the next one, stay safe out there.